back to D&D Beyond, and I am delighted to be joined by our own community manager, Mellie Doucette, and of course, returning all-star Sam de Leve. How are you both doing today?
Oh, good. I'm so excited to be here with both of you. Just incredible, amazing, wonderful people. Ah!
I circumvented all the child-safe locks and they can't keep me out. Ha 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 ha.
Sam just hacked into the stream. I'm not sure, but I'm so happy to see them that we're just going with it. You can't stop the signal. We are excited about a lot of great announcements. If you've been missing any of our last couple of streams, an avalanche of new and cool news came down. We are still in the middle of a spring sale, depending if you're watching this before May 1st. We have Spelljammer available for pre-order. We have a lot of exciting things coming down the pipe, including our first hints at Dragonlance with some corresponding Unearthed Arcana dropping. But none of that is what we're here. I know, right? to look at today, because Mellie, who is this?
This is my Gnome Artificer, the Artillerist subclass that is one of my two longest standing D&D characters that I've been playing in a very long-term campaign.
And you have done some incredible work. Folks scanning this sheet will see some surprising and fantastic additions to it that we're going to make Mellie talk us through as we get there. But first, broadly, overall, why an artificer? What makes them fun to play?
Ah, man, artificers are incredible. I mean, here's the thing. I talked about how I like Spelljammer. The thing that, you might be surprised about hearing that I like Spelljammer and that I love artificers is that I don't really dig sci-fi that much. Like, it's not my jam, weirdly enough, but put some sci-fi into my fantasy and I'm like, that's the flavor. That's the thing I like. Don't give me
Peanut
just
butter on the medicine.
science fiction. Exactly. Give me the fantasy and then put some science into it. And I'm all over it. So give me the steampunk. Give me hey, give me Percival long name from Vox Machina. And I'm like, yeah, put some guns in that fantasy. I'm for it. That's the kind of flavor I dig. Give me Treasure Planet. That's what I'm here for. So artificers give me that. It's like, hey, this is a straight up fantasy world, but all of a sudden now we have magic guns. Now we have Full Metal Alchemist style mechanized golem like creatures. Now we have these weird things that are kind of magic, kind of science, and it doesn't have to make any kind of logical sense. It just has to be cool. And that's why I like artificers, because I'm not a smart person when it comes to logic and real things, but I can make stuff up real good. And I do that. And artificers are real good at making stuff up.
Making stuff that does stuff, and as you alluded to earlier, can offer some really interesting problem solving possibilities. Sam, just general thoughts, if you've played with some artificers, if you've rolled an artificer, or on which of the things that Mellie shouted out you want to base a character on right now?
Um, well, that was probably the best pitch for an artificer I've ever heard. Even as someone who is deep into sci-fi, yeah, no, I don't need a whole cilantro salad, but sprinkle a little bit of cilantro on whatever. Yes, absolutely. That's a lovely, lovely, lovely pitch. I've only played one artificer, one session once, and I had a great time. It was just that brief taste that leaves you wanting more. And so one of the reasons why I'm so excited to meet Girk Longname is that I might get to see a higher level version, see in their more mature form what this class can really do when they are unleashed.
So let's talk build for Girk. What were the big choices that make her who she is? Why gnome?
No, I love being small because I feel like that lets you be a problem. You can get into things that you
Can
shouldn't
confirm.
be able to get into otherwise. There's something about here's this small person, and people are having a conversation above you, and you're just you see that visual thing in animation, you get that camera pan down moment. You get those moments where it's like, hey, nobody can see me, so I'm just gonna go and do this thing. And that underestimation moment of oh, I shouldn't be able to do this wild thing. Imma pull out these big guns now and do this big thing. I love all of those things. Also, I'm a very short person, in general, so I just like making myself shorter or much taller. So I only play very short characters or extremely tall characters and nothing in between.
Nothing in the middle?
Yes.
Sam,
Nothing
what are your
average. I am
instincts?
either over 6 feet or under 3 feet. That's it.
Mhm. Mhm.
Nothing in
Do you
between.
most do you go tall, small, or somewhere in the middle, Sam, or all over the map?
I am likewise small and enjoy being a problem and experience the real life neck cricks of just it, Melly. You're probably running at least like a foot over my head IRL, so I always live that comedic shot. And so, like, I'll have characters who are pretty much at my height or are well north of 6 foot. Usually, if I can get away with it, taller than my disproportionately tall GMs. Like, it's a thing.
I love that. All right, so we've talked a little bit about why Artificer, why you leaned into Artificer for Girk specifically. Why Artillerist, the subclass you chose?
Man, so this was, I first created Gurk during the playtest of Artificer, so there's just the 3 options. And so there's Battlesmith, Artillerist, and Alchemist. And for me, I just wanted to blow stuff up. I'm a simple person. I was like, "Make thing go boom?" Yes. Also, I was very much like, "Hey, um, I'm also a simple baby lesbian who just came out of the closet, and I very much enjoy Ghostbusters 2016, starring Kate McKinnon as Holtzman, who basically is an artificer artillerist,
Yeah.
and a lot of early Girk before she developed as a character in her own right was just me playing Holtzman as a gnome. And, so I was like, "How do I do that?" Artillerist, perfect. So that's 100% why I went with that. I was like, "I want to make a staff into gun." And so I kind of went with that idea, and I picked early on, I think, as, the Artisan tool set that I grabbed was, like, glass blowers tools with this idea of, like, I really like the aesthetic of taking a wooden staff and the magical component I was adding to that of, like, adding glass as the magical component and channeling the magic through that. So it's like it's a staff, but all of the gun parts are glass. So I'm like holding a staff, but like then there's glass to it. And so any of the arcane arcane firearm stuff is like, here's
Mhm.
glass on this staff, and it just looks very cool in my head, and I very much like it. Later on, I picked up a magical staff, and I was able to upgrade that to my arcane firearm, and it's like a necromancer staff, and I ended up turning that into like a blunderbuss kind of thing, again with glass, and it just looks very dope in my mind, and I just love being able to describe that kind of thing. So very fun.
I love that. I will not interrupt stream to go in the next room and retrieve my Holtzman Funko Pop. But I love your choices. Um, and I wonder, Sam, if you have it handy, could you read me the first chunk, the little quote, and the first chunk of the artillerist description that we have from the subclass? Um, Dropped a link in, but I don't know if it was findable.
Yes. Oh, absolutely. And I have it right here. I was just Control F directly to the artillerist, who specializes in using magic to hurl energy, projectiles, and explosions on a battlefield. This destructive power is valued by armies in the wars on many different worlds. And when war passes, some members of this specialization seek to build a more peaceful world by using their powers to fight the resurgence of strife. The world hopping gnome Artificer Vi has been especially vocal about making things right. It's about time we fixed things instead of blowing them all to hell. Meanwhile, some artificers ask the hard questions. Couldn't there be even more collateral damage?
Absolutely. So this gets you some bonus tool proficiency, a certain set of spells, the case for all of your types of artificer that are going to come with there, which a generally dangerous bunch there. And then some fun stuff like Eldritch Cannon, Arcane Firearm, Explosive Cannon, and eventually Fortified Position. Melly, do you have a favorite feature from this list?
Oh, man. I'm kinda torn between 2. Obviously, the Eldritch Can, that's kind of like your core thing. Really fantastic. I mean, especially you've got a bunch of options in there, so it's like you can have this flamethrower, which gives you this kind of area of effect attack, which is great when you've got hordes of stuff. And also this whole cannon thing, like it lasts for a long time, so you can like set it up before you go into a place and you just have it. And you can make it small or tiny, and I just always make it tiny, and I just have like a little I have a teapot spider is how she makes it. And so she has like a teapot spider that can be a flamethrower or a little like force beam thing, or it's like a healing thing and it just puts out blasts of healing steam. So that's what I have. But it's also something where it's like if it's tiny, she can like chuck it if she needs to move it farther. So just things like that where it's like, hey, I can be creative with a tiny thing where a small thing is like my size and not as easy to use in that way. But that's really helpful, and it has been a saving grace because the healing version of it can give you temporary hit points every single turn as a bonus action, and that's not just for you, that's for anybody in the radius. So you can, like, keep your party alive around a bunch of, like, mooks in a group because they're only gonna take as much damage as you're giving temporary hit points every turn. So it's not gonna help you against a big guy, but against a bunch of small ones, it's been, pretty amazing, especially in early games. So that was pretty dope. Arcane Firearm, obviously, I talked about earlier, is pretty amazing. Flash of Genius is great because you can just be like, "Oh, I'm just gonna add, an extra +5 because I'm gonna just I wanna win this. I want it." But I love the Explosive Cannon. In the playtest, this was a level 3 feature. They moved it up, but it
Mhm.
was at level 3 before, and that's when I used it the first time. We were underground hunting giant spiders that were doing some giant spider stuff. And I used it and may have possibly there, jury's out on exactly the cause of the town sinkhole that may have collapsed parts of this town. But some people say, my party may say, that it was because of this explosive cannon inside of these tunnels caused by spiders underneath the town. And so that was kind of like this iconic part of Girk's character development was maybe possibly causing a town to collapse and maybe needing to think more about how to use the cannon. But the next time we played, it was out of playtest and was officially now not a level 3 feature. So I was like, hey, I can't do that anymore, but I'm going to play it as if I'm thinking about how I should use that smarter. And so I'm not going to use it and I'm going to hold back until, I get it later. And now I've learned how to use it better. So I kind of played it that way as a role play choice instead of oh, hey, this went out of playtest and now I can't do it. Um,
That's
but I
brilliant.
just had such a strong memory of, hey, this feature making this iconic moment that, hey, we got trapped in these tunnels, we had to go a different way, and all of these other things happened because of this moment, and also it created a whole bunch of role play things. We got ended up, getting exiled from the town, and all these other things happened because of that one thing, because of this one mechanic. And I love when a mechanic can do that, and that's, I mean, tied to wonderful GM, Jordan, he's great. Shout out to you. But I love things like that where it's like, hey, one choice all of a sudden goes to all these other things.
Oh, that's perfection. And of course, the cannon itself comes in flamethrower, force ballista, and protector modes. So I love that decision to relearn it as it came around for you again appropriately is so smart and so cool. Um, I would love to hear next because the other characteristic for artificers is that you are going to get some infusions, which is special specific magic that you drop on top of devices. And would you be ready to pick a couple favorites now, or do you want to save those for when we get into how you flavored out Girk's sheet?
Yeah, I can tell a little bit about some infusions. So, I mean, the first one that I did was that I got a replicate magic item and I got some sending stones because I mean, every party needs some sending stones. So I got those and we ended up, at that point there was a tower, a wizard's tower involved, and there was a dragon there. And instead of fighting it, we were like, what if we cohabitate? Which some of our party was not in favor of. Turns out they were right. But at that time, we made friends with this dragon and gave them a sending stone, and they were like our roomie for a bit. And then that sending stone ended up going to, somebody we hired as our manager, and they've had it for a while. And it ended up being, later again a dramatic moment at level 20. I think artificers get a feature where they can drop an infusion to stay up if they hit 0 hit points. And in our level 20 fight, that's how I stayed up when the boss was gonna kill me. Basically, is that I dropped the infusion of the sending stones with our manager. He would not be able to contact us, but I did stay alive. So I love the sending stones. They just added so much for us being able to do a lot of stuff with. But I also love, I just do a lot of replicating magic items because I think that's great. But I also have a repulsion shield, which has been a lifesaver for me because I am squishy
Mm.
without it. Oh boy. Highly recommend a repulsion shield. It's also great because, hey, you can push things away. So when you just want to not have to use an action to get away, push them with your reaction. And then on your turn, you don't have to use an action to get away. Very good. But
Love
I also
that.
have replicated some winged boots for our cleric so that they could fly, but I made them flip flaps, which are flip flops that flip flap, and they are very noisy. And I just added to them. This was not a requirement of any kind, but I said that they give stealth disadvantage because they go.
That's
um,
just facts. That's you applying real science
yeah.
as you're working on your artificing.
Absolutely.
There's a
We
cost.
all know flip-flops are very noisy. And I gave our Bard Rogue multi-class a spell refueling ring, and it's called a Ring of Whooshes instead of a Ring of Wishes. And when they refuel their a spell slot using the Ring of Whooshes, it goes in my character's voice, whoosh. And that's how it refuels a spell, just because I enjoy that a lot. It's just I just like making them goofy and being like, "Hey, if you want to use this thing I've made you, you have to deal with this. You're welcome." I made at one point, I think, a tinfoil hat to protect somebody, and they refused to wear it, so they didn't get the protection that it gave. Sucks to be them. They didn't want to wear the tinfoil hat. They didn't want to look like what that would make them look like. They did not get advantage on wisdom saves.
Those are the choices you
Mhm.
gotta make. So that spell refueling ring is an item. Once you're 6th level, you can make this is one of your options. While wearing this ring, the creature can recover 1 expended spell slot as an action. The recovered slot can be of 3rd level or lower. Once used, it can't be used again until the next dawn. Sam, do you have a favorite from among the infusion options, little flavor that we've talked about so far?
Oh, just look, I'm a creature of action economy when it can be done elegantly. That the potential for a repulsion shield is genuinely endless and fits into some of my favorite kinds of items, which are ones that aren't necessarily we're just going to put a fat stack of bonus onto your attack or a big number of dice onto your damage. It is the potential for creativity, the same thing that makes me love an immovable rod as like probably my favorite magic item all time because it's only as powerful as what you can think. That repulsion shield is, I mean, what's it like being Galaxy Brain, Melly? Does it itch? Like,
So as you've put together these ingredients over time, as you've leveled up with Gurk and gone through your journey with her, um, were there any big priorities? Did you spend most of your level ups on ability score increases? Did you take feats as alternate options?
I took a couple of ability score increases. I boosted my intelligence and my dexterity. And then I took feats. So I took elemental adept because I do lots of fire. So I just wanted to make sure that hey, I want a minimum. There's also it's led to great role play moments because we also have we we I've had other player characters let me test fire things on them. They're all resistant to fire, but of course I get to ignore resistance with that. So when I got this feat, I was like, "Oh, I'm gonna test this," and then it still hurt them the exact same amount. So they're like, I guess I'm not resistant to fire." It's just been also the best thing because a lot of the creatures in this campaign are resistant to fire. Not for me. My fire's better. And then I also took it was a playtest feat. I took it though Tandem Tactician, which lets me use help as a bonus action instead of just as an action because a lot of my stuff is about just doing things very strategically, getting things into position. I'm not attacking every turn. I'm setting stuff up for other people because we have a lot of like really our fighter does wild damage. Our rogue does wild damage. I can like set stuff up, they can knock them down. So the Tam Tactician help is a bonus action. And then I can also when I do use help, I can increase that range of help up to 10 feet. So I don't have to be right next to them. And I can help two people instead of one as long as they're adjacent to each other. So like if the rogue and the fighter are flanking something and then I can also help them, it can do all of these great things. So we can just like combo, combo, combo. So that's really what I'm doing is like I'm kind of like giving them pro tips from the side as I like run around in circles and hide under my shield and fire my gun. And then my teapot chases after me. And that's kind of just how it looks in combat.
That's amazing. I would love to take a look. Anyone looking across this sheet might have, some questions. Some questions like, Mellie, what is Garthak's spine? What did you do to this sheet? Can you tell us about some of the things you did that make it distinctly Gurky?
Yeah, I love customizing my D&D Beyond character sheets, which is something you can just do right on the sheet. It's magic. Like on my skill list, I've added my tool sets and the gnome the type of gnome that I am has a special thing with history. I've added all that as customized skills just by hitting the little manage skills button. My inventory has some custom items, it has some homebrew items, it has some regular items that they've renamed. So all of that is stuff that's in here. But yeah, Garthak's spine, for example, that is a homebrew item that I have also customized. So Garthak's spine is a homebrew item that my DM gave me that we picked up from a necromancer who was supposed to be really, really scary. The last party that this DM had run this adventure for, they got total party killed by this necromancer. And one of our party members had actually been in that campaign. And then we went and we thought we were like, this is going to be really bad. And then we got them by surprise and we rolled really high on initiative and we wiped them before they had a turn. And then we looted their body, and I took this really cool staff and I turned it into my arcane firearm. And it has a lot of really cool spells on it. So I've just been able to use it for just really cool abilities. I've been able to animate dead with it for some just ridiculous. There's ridiculous things that we've done with that. Not in combat, just like we've done some cons with that and just other silly things. So I've also made that my arcane firearm, so it just has an extra die attached to it that I get to roll with and other things like that. So I've customized it. I obviously have a wild amount of containers. When the container update for D&D Beyond came out, I immediately went over to Girk's character sheet and I said, I need to add containers. I've got my on-hand equipment. I've got a backpack. I have a cart which is currently parked at our tower. We have a friend named Corin and they have a house and I left something there back at level 4 and we've never been back. We have a fortress. I have other party members who have things. I got stuff in my pockets that I want to make sure that that's separate because I got some jagged glass in there. I got some sand. I need to make sure I know where that stuff is. That's very, very important. I have
Pockets,
a
there we
horse
go, I see
named
it.
Primo. Yep. I have Primo Extremo, the Wonder Horse. I have a dog named Renegade. I got my tool belt. We have a tower. So all of these things are very important to keep separate. A lot of them are actually empty right now because things got bad when we got back from our amazing heroics. So some of our stuff is missing, but there was stuff in all of those places, and being able to fill it all in was really satisfying. Um, and I love being
Now,
able to do
just
that.
a
You can
real
just add
quick,
stuff directly on.
if I want to add pockets on my sheet, what do I hit
Yeah.
to add pockets?
So you can go to manage inventory,
In here.
and then you're going to be able to like add. You can, I believe, add items, and you can just go ahead and add any kind of container. And I just renamed a pouch. So I just added a pouch, and then I renamed the pouch Pockets. And I was like, cool,
This is
it's a
your
pouch,
character, but if I were gonna
technically.
do this, I would just go ahead and add a pouch.
Yeah,
Uh,
add a pouch,
I'll
and
take
then
it
you'll
off
be able
later.
to rename pouch whatever you want to rename it. You can be like, oh, that's now back pocket. And I like to do that because I do like to actually know where I put things. I also like my DM to punish me for if I say I put that in the red chest in the tower. And then they go, oh, the red chest? Interesting. Got it. And then I go check the red chest later and they're like, there's nothing in there. And I'm like, I needed that for my personal goals and fulfillment. And they're like, yeah, I know. I love being punished in that way. I volunteer for it readily. So I love being like, specifically, this is going in my left pocket. And they're like, noted, left pocket. And then they punish
So
me
I've
for that
gone
later.
and I have found pouch now, and if we want, we can override it to be like gift from Amy. Fancy pouch.
Treats for Renegade.
Yeah. Yes, treats for renegade. Gotta be in there.
Perfect.
Uh,
And that is where we can put all of those things. Thank you for walking me through that. There are no items
exactly.
in your
Yeah,
gift
I
from Amy
love
Fancy Pouch.
just yeah. I mean, I customize everything. I customize spells a lot, and I do that on any spellcaster that I play. So all of my
What's a
spells, like
what is blasting shot?
that's just firebolt. But because I'm firing it out of my arcane firearm, I was like, well, what is that actually? So that's a blasting shot, and then also throw out of there. We've got a corrosive paintball, which is I think what is that one? Man, I haven't played this character in a year. Oh my goodness, that's
A bubble
acid
of acid.
splash.
Hmm?
Acid splash. Grapple gun is thorn whip. That's just, getting a little like that classic spy movie grapple, which I use constantly. That is probably more of a signature spell than blasting shot in many, many ways.
So you've
We
added a
got
custom
gnomish
name here.
parachute.
And if people want, you could put your own notes for what it was, like you did with Arcane Firearm. You put it in the notes to remind yourself that you added that. You could use that for the original
Yeah.
name for your spells. You can add a new name here. And my favorite button, which is display as attack, will make your go-to show up
Yes.
in the first column there. Okay, continue. You were telling us some more
No,
translations.
absolutely. Yeah, and one thing I do as well, like not for this character, but like for my wizards, I put in the notes like, how do I cast this? Because they have like, I do this with this material component, and then I like write magic words. For this, it's just like, yeah, I shoot my gun and I do this and I blah blah blah. And I don't put all those specifics in, but for wizards I might. But yeah, I've got like, oh hey, for the jump spell is moon shoes. The classic 90s kids toy, moon shoes.
I was
Of
just
course
looking
they
at it
are.
and losing my mind. It's so
The Gnomish
good.
parachute is Featherfall, and
Mm-hmm.
none of my party members trusted it the first time we used it. We had the opportunity to jump down a chasm, and I was like, "Oh, the backpacks I gave you all earlier are totally safe. We could just jump down this chasm." And they were like, "No, Gert, we're not doing that." And I'm like, "No, no, no, it's totally fine. I haven't tested it yet, but trust me, it'll work." This time it'll work. And we spent like an hour debating whether my spell would actually work in character, because in character they didn't believe it, even if out of character they knew it was the Featherfall spell. One character jumped with me eventually, got Featherfall, and then the other character saw that it worked and jumped after me and cost me a second spell slot to save their lives. And I was like, I
No.
live for this role play, even if I'm so mad that it cost me 2 spell slots at level 3. It was perfect.
So, is there anything else catching your eye that you need the scoop on this list here?
Oh,
Dog whistle not for dogs uh is I think thunder something.
A loud
I don't
ringing
remember what the
noise.
actual spells are anymore because it's been so long. It's shatter. And I had to
Yeah,
label
yeah,
that
yeah.
because I have a dog whistle for dogs as well. because I have a dog. So they have little
Of
labels
course
on
you do.
them. This is the
For
good whistle, this is the bad whistle.
Please tell me about dopamine infusion.
Oh my
That's
gosh.
A
haste.
3rd level spell.
Third level spell,
Huh.
dopamine infusion, is just a little buff,
It's a
little
little
haste.
buff. It's just go like, hey, Gildas. Hey, wait, before you go. And I just stab him with a needle. I have to also make sure because I do have a lot of vials and things that are full of like zombie blood and other bad things that I don't want to give my party members, which again is why I mark what things are in what pockets. Because I don't want to give them like, here's owlbear zombie blood instead of dopamine infusion. They don't trust
Of
me
course
with
not. That
most of
would
this
be
stuff.
bad. Bad.
They say irresponsible for some reason, but
Mm.
eh.
Mm. So you filled in, you picked guild artisan sort of to fill out the background there, which tracks for all of your various skills. Um, are there any other sort of broad strokes things about Girk and the way that you built her to serve these goals that we haven't gotten to?
Well, so she's of the family toy mocker. So she was a her parents are both toy makers, and she was raised to also be one. But she was like, I just want to blow stuff up. So she would keep making toys that would explode, which wasn't safe for kids. So she was sent to a reform school to no, you have to make things that are safe. And then she, blew up the school. Um as one does, of course. And so her parents were like, "We give up. Just go away." And just disowned her essentially. I mean, she's still technically part of the family, but she's not really welcome back. And they had a new child that I believe they called Toy Masher of the family Toy Mocker in the hopes that she will be a good toy maker. And so Girk is like, I'm cool with it, but also I have deep seated issues about the fact that I have been rejected by my family. So found family is a really big thing, as it is in many D&D campaigns, I feel like. But for her, it's like her party that she's found is her family. And so, like, she's even when they are in big conflict, which they are a lot of the time, because our fighter makes very poor decisions a lot of the time. She's like, "No, we have to stay together. We have to be good. I will resolve our conflicts, even though I also make terrible decisions. Then I have to resolve my conflict that I caused." She's like, "No, we have to solve it and stay together, and I will find any reason for us to stay together. I will solve it. We are together forever. We have to be. You love me, right? I'm the best. You love me, right?" So she's always trying to prove herself and be like, "I am beloved by everybody, right? People love me." So that's a big part of like everything she does. And she's like, I am maybe chaotic and blow things up, but also you want me around, right? So it's a big part of her, and giving people things and making infusions and being helpful is kind of a big driver for her.
And you get to express that through actually making the things that are your artificer stock and trade,
Flip
and you are the
flaps.
attack slash protect cannon of your party. And that is very beautiful. Thank you for sharing her with us, Mellie.
She is she's my baby. I love her very, very much.
If folks want a closer look, that link is running through chat. It is down in the description. And it has been an absolute pleasure to take this test drive through this gorgeous sheet, which you also kitted out with some really lovely artistic choices, by the way. Any real quick, like, decoration notes?
Anytime that new customization things come out, go and redecorate your sheet because you never know what combos you can come up with. And also, who needs to spend your time doing productive things when you can spend your time making your sheet look pretty, right, Sam?
I have no idea why you looked at me for that, but I agree.
Thank you, Mellie. Thank you, Sam. This has been an amazing tour.